Okay, guys. Let me adjust that. So, finally, the update I guess all three people of you have been waiting for. Just got back from the doctor, and by this point, he didn't tell me anything I kind of didn't already know or hadn't already figured out by this point. I made the appointment about 6 weeks ago. That's about how long it takes to get into the doctor's office, it seems. And at that time, my knees really were giving me lots of problems. I felt like they were swelling. I was having to ice them down after work and after exercise. And so at the time when I made the appointment, there seemed like there was a problem. Since then, I stopped working out on the jumping program. I'm not working as much, so I'm not on my feet as many hours a week. And then the biggest thing is I changed shoes. And so bringing all of those changes to the doctor's office, the doctor told me, yeah, there's really not a problem. Basically, the diagnosis is I'm getting older. That's just a fact of life. He said that the knee problems probably won't go away. He said there wasn't any swelling or any redness, anything that would lead him to suspect there was an injury or a problem. He did make some recommendations. He said I could see a sports therapist, more like a physical therapist, to continue to make adjustments like with the shoes and things like that, but that wasn't his realm, so he didn't really get into that. It was more of an offhand recommendation. And then he did recommend warming up my knees, taking a couple Advil before I work out, and using hot towels to warm up my knees. That was his recommendation. But other than that, he said that there's not any problems, and it's just a matter of kind of managing and taking care of myself. So there's that update. I want to go ahead and do the discussion about shoes, talk about what led up to the problems I was having. When it comes to shoes and footwear and your footfalls, I tend to subscribe more to the kind of natural idea, the barefoot ideal. So I've used here a couple different types of the barefoot shoes. My favorites were these, toe shoes. I really enjoyed wearing them. It allowed me to really, do what they say, splay the toes out, give a wider, spot placement of your toes and the ball of your foot, allow it to spread out like it's supposed to, and as well as having what they call a level foot plane, so that the heel to, they call it heel to toe being level. A lot of shoes have a thicker heel, and so they'll actually be at an angle like this. These toe shoes specifically, I like because this strap right here, this is where the arch is, pulled up on the arch, and it gave a little bit of arch support, and it helped, for me, help put my feet in the right position, and that's crucial. That's kind of the thing that led up to the problems, was because these, as you can see, wore a hole in them, just wore them out. They're old, they're dirty, all the tread's worn off them, and so it was time for new shoes. But where I worked, I needed leather shoes, not fabric shoes. So the company that makes these, Vibram, doesn't make the leather shoes anymore. And so I looked for alternatives. And one of the other kind of minimalist, low-impact shoes that's out there is this Vivo Barefoot. Again, it's a thin sole. It's really flexible. It's got the the level heel to toe, has a little bit of raise here on the toe, but not much, and it was all seemed pretty good. But when I got them, I didn't like them. They hurt my feet. It felt weird, so I stopped wearing them. I went back to the toe shoes until they, this one's in better shape than the other foot, until it just literally fell apart. And so I ended up just kind of pushing through it. I wore these and I got used to them. It was okay. But then I switched jobs. I wasn't on my feet all the time. I got more comfortable with wearing these. And then I went back to the job where I was standing on my feet. So that's about 3 years of timeline there. So toe shoes, great, loved them, stood on my feet all day, didn't really have any problems with them. Got to these Vivo Barefoots, and fast forward to not sleeping as much, doing the jumping exercises, really high impact on my feet, and not wearing these types of shoes for a while, and then going back to them. What had developed was, as you can see, it's pretty flat here through the arch, and I'll try to show you. I don't know if you can see, but there's really nothing on the inside in terms of arch support, and that's where the problem started. So that when my foot went down flat, without that arch support, it was flattening my foot out, and it was turning my foot out and flattening on that arch. And then with this, and so that was where the problems were starting. And I kind of have a natural tendency to do that anyways. The toe shoes with the strap here pulling up on the arch helped eliminate that. I still had to be conscious of it. But these shoes without that support, my natural faults, became obvious, and I started to have those knee problems. That's where the knee problems developed, was from that arch flattening out and my feet turning out. And the other difference with these shoes is the space for your toes. It's still fairly narrow, and it doesn't allow for my toes to splay out, which is more proper. What I think is considered more proper and natural foot placement is for the toes to splay out. It helps strengthen the arch and just does a lot more for proper foot strength. As you can see, the toes, when they press flat, stick out. And so with this shoe, those toes were curling in, which that curling of the toes in and the flattening of the arch, just really, my foot was not supporting the rest of my body. And these shoes weren't helping. And again, I guess I already had a natural tendency to have my feet flatten out and my toes and my feet turn out. So these shoes with those problems just magnified them and let them happen. Just for example, here is a shoe sole, kind of exaggerated shoe insole designed to help build that arch, and you can kind of see the difference of what that looks like. And again, this is exaggerated because once you put it in the shoe, it does flatten out some. But it's designed to have the extra support. You can see the difference there of how flat that is relative to it. And so what I ended up doing is I just went back to the shoes that you saw me, if you've watched my other videos, the shoes that I was wearing to exercise in, I went to wearing those full time. And those are just your standard everyday sneakers. And they have all of the features that I was trying to get away from. They've got this thicker sole that's thinner at the toes. There's an upturn at the toes, but there is more arch support, and there is, of course, I don't think you can see it at all, but there is a bit of arch support in there. And so I do like these because they are wider, and that's kind of one of the keys for these shoes, is that the toe area is wider. It does allow my feet to spread out. And so wearing those these shoes, I've been wearing them full time now for, I think it's been about 6 weeks. And you can see here that it's a slightly wider toe area, and those toes get just a little bit more room to spread out in there. So I've been wearing these, your general athletics shoes for 6 weeks. Things are better. Again, not perfect, but they're better. And so I'm trying to find the right shoe that's going to fit kind of the more minimalist ideal that I have for shoes. The level heel to toe surface, no upturn at the toe, but still have the wide foot plane at the ball of the foot, so the toes can splay out and the foot can do a proper job, but still having proper arch support. And there are exercises and things I've been studying about building a proper arch, so I'm going to start implementing those. But really the next step for me is going to be actually seeing a sports therapist. But not a lot of insurances cover sports therapists, especially because there's no injury. It's just a matter of a general checkup that I want to do with my joints and my foot patterns and things. So what I'm going to do is have been studying some things on the exercises that I was doing. I've altered a couple of them that I think were the highest impact on my knees, the ones that were going to be causing me the most problems. I've made some changes to those exercises to the way I'm going to be doing them. And then I'm going to take my doctor's recommendation on the warming up the knees. He said to, put just hot towels on your knees, 5 to 10 minutes, and then go exercise, and you should see less impact on the knees. So that's going to be my next step. So it's good news. It's good news in that there's nothing wrong, and it's disappointing news in that there's nothing wrong, so there aren't any major corrective measures to take. So it's harder to deal with because it's now on to more trial and error as far as figuring out what's going to work for me. That's my video about shoes, different, thoughts, and leave your thoughts and comments about shoe brands or styles or designs or the science of, of feet and how they work, whatever you want to do, the biomechanics of it. Sure, just leave your comments on that. And there's still a few things I want to do in relation to diet. I'm going to get into those again. But for now, that's where I'm going to leave you. Look to see some exercise videos soon. Bye.